Welcome friends to Literature Mantra. This is practice test 3 and in this video we will again focus on literary theory. So अगर एग्ज़ाम से पहले आप अपने नॉलेज को आप फाइन ट्यून करना चाहते हैं रिगार्डिंग लिटरेरी थ्योरी देन डू वॉच दिस वीडियो. नए अपडेट्स के लिए आप हमें फॉलो कर सकते हैं फेसबुक पर या इंस्टाग्राम पर या यूट्यूब पर और लिटरेचर मंत्रा के साथ जुड़ना ना भूलें. भारत का एकमात्र फ्री ऑनलाइन प्रिपरेशन प्लेटफॉर्म यूजीसी नेट के लिए और इंग्लिश लिटरेचर से जुड़े हुए सभी एग्जाम्स के लिए. Now next question is, which of the following statements does not describe Michel Foucault's position? Now you should be careful when you read the question. It says does not describe. Okay. First option is, in Foucault's work, sexuality is literally written on the body. Second, power operates through discourse. Third, there is connection between power and knowledge. Fourth, where there is power, it is possible to find resistance. नाउ फूको का एक बहुत फेमस आइडिया है पावर नॉलेज का एंड डिस्कोर्स इज रिलेटेड टू दैट. ओके, दैट पावर ऑपरेट्स थ्रू डिस्कोर्स. सो सेकंड ऑप्शन इज ऑफ कोर्स करेक्ट. देन थर्ड ऑप्शन, देयर इज कनेक्शन बिटवीन पावर एंड नॉलेज. ऑफ कोर्स पावर एंड नॉलेज वो तो बेसिक आइडिया ही है फूको का. सो दिस इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट. एंड फोर्थ ऑप्शन इज, वेयर देयर इज पावर इट इज पॉसिबल टू फाइंड रेजिस्टेंस. येस, ऑफ कोर्स दिस कैन ऑल्सो बी करेक्ट. नाउ फर्स्ट ऑप्शन जो है, इन फूकोज वर्क सेक्सुअलिटी इज लिटरली रिटन ऑन द बॉडी. मतलब ये कि सेक्सुअलिटी इज समथिंग नेचुरल और समथिंग और सेक्सुअलिटी इज समथिंग प्री एग्जिस्टिंग और अबाउट ह्यूमन आइडेंटिटी. बट फूको सेज दैट दिस इज नॉट सो. यू नो, दिस idea of sexuality has been inculcated in us through various practices of power knowledge. Okay, Foucault का बहुत famous work है The History of Sexuality. In that he talks about this power knowledge and discourse and blah blah blah. Okay, so here the answer that is correct is number 1, a statement that does not describe Michel Foucault's position. Okay, so this number 1 is the correct answer. Next question is, in the 1940s a critic and a philosopher produced two influential and controversial papers called The Intentional Fallacy and The Effective Fallacy. Identify them. Now, ये तो हालांकि बहुत आसान सा सवाल है, बट आई विल जस्ट टेक अ मिनट टू एक्सप्लेन व्हाट इज इंटेंशनल फैलेसी एंड इफेक्टिव फैलेसी. नाउ इफेक्टिव फैलेसी कब होता है? इफेक्टिव फैलेसी तब है व्हेन वी ट्राई टू जज अ पीस ऑफ लिटरेचर और अ लिटरेरी वर्क बेस्ड ऑन द इम्पैक्ट, emotional impact that it has on us or the reader. If we try to judge a piece of work by the emotional impact it has on us or on the reader, then we are likely to make a mistake which is called effective fallacy. Okay, so उसे कहते हैं effective fallacy. Now what is intentional fallacy? Now when we try to analyze a piece of literature or when we judge a piece of literature based on our assumption of what the intention of the author or the writer could have been. मतलब हमें पता नहीं है कि what the intention of the writer or the author was, but when we try to assume that okay, blah blah was the intention behind writing this novel, then we are running the risk of making this mistake, and this mistake is called intentional fallacy. Okay, and इसे fallacy क्यों कहते हैं? Because according to Wimsatt and Beardsley, वो कहते हैं कि you know whatever the real intention of the writer was behind writing a novel or a poem, that cannot be known because the real intention can only be known by the author himself. We can't know it. हमें पता भी नहीं है किसने किसी राइटर ने 100 साल पहले लिखा होगा और हम लोग एनालाइज कर रहे हैं कि नहीं, दिस वॉज द इंटेंशन बिहाइंड राइटिंग दैट नॉवल. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू Wimsatt and Beardsley, दिस इज अ इंटेंशनल फैलेसी. Okay, so as I said, the answer मतलब वही है B and C, Beardsley, Monroe Beardsley and W.K. Wimsatt, option C. So ये है B and C number 3. So this is the answer. Okay. Now next question is, the hermeneutics of suspicion is a term coined by Paul Ricoeur dash. Now पहली चीज़ तो ये कि what is the meaning of hermeneutics? hermeneutics का मतलब क्या होता है? Forget about hermeneutics of suspicion. What is the meaning of hermeneutics? Now hermeneutics basically refers to a methodology of interpretation. Okay, a methodology of interpretation. Now किस चीज़ की interpretation? Interpretation specifically of biblical texts or scriptures, and broadly even it can also include literary texts. So a methodology of interpretation, that is what hermeneutics means. उसके बाद A option है to designate the post-colonial tendency to see theory and related reading maneuvers as a global conspiracy. Okay, then B is to describe interpretive bids that challenge and seek to overcome compartmentalized cultural experiences. C है who following Marx, Nietzsche and Freud held that textual appearances are deceptive and texts do not gracefully relinquish their meanings. D. To describe a mode of interpretation that adopts a distrustful attitude towards texts in order to elicit otherwise inaccessible meanings or implications. Now पहले तो मैं बता दूं आपको कि hermeneutics of suspicion broadly कहते किसे हैं. Now this term broadly falls under the rubric of post structuralism. मतलब this is a post structural idea. और जो भी scholars ये कहते हैं कि the apparent meaning of a text or a literary text is hidden or the apparent meaning is not really well established. For example, in Marxist literary criticism, it always talks about ideology or false consciousness. And in the field of psychoanalysis, एक idea है कि there are psychic compulsions or psychic limitations of the writer. So जो सच है और real meaning जो है वो apparent नहीं है या आसानी से नहीं मिलता. So that is why in hermeneutics of suspicion they say that we have to read between the lines and against the grain. And what these scholars say is that the real meaning in a text, in a literary text, is masked और एक कवर है उस पर या डिस्गाइज है. सो थ्रू लिटरेरी क्रिटिसिज्म और क्रिटिकली एनालाइजिंग अ लिटरेरी टेक्स्ट वी हैव टू गेट आउट द रियल मीनिंग. ओके, और मार्क्स और फ्रूइड के बारे में तो आपको पता ही होगा कि दे ऑफर अ काइंड ऑफ रेडिकली डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ ओपिनियन और एनालिसिस. एंड इन द फील्ड ऑफ philosophy, Nietzsche is a philosopher, okay? And in the field of philosophy, Nietzsche is one such philosopher who has offered a radically different kind of analysis. For example, he talks about morality, ethics और एकदम radically different, opposite analysis देता है. So that is why ये तीन important नाम है इसमें hermeneutics of suspicion में, okay? So इसमें correct answer है number C and D. C में है those who follow Marx, Nietzsche and Freud held that the textual appearances are deceptive and texts do not gracefully relinquish their meanings. And D है to describe a mode of interpretation that adopts a distrustful attitude towards texts in order to elicit otherwise inaccessible meanings or implications. So ऐसा ही मैंने explain किया आपको अभी, ठीक है? So third option correct है इसमें C and D. Okay. Next question is the error of interpreting a literary work by referring to evidence outside of itself, such as design and purpose of the author is called. Now अभी मैंने आपको बताया था that if we try to assume something about the author's purpose or intention, it is called intentional fallacy. So इसका correct option है intentional fallacy. And one more thing, this can't be effective fallacy. Why? Because it is not talking about the impact on us or the reader. उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा है, ये कह रहा है कि if we refer to the design and purpose of the author, so that is intentional fallacy. Okay. Now next question is, how would a new historicist critic interpret Derrida's statement, there is nothing outside the text? Okay. Now first option is, historicist critics should restrict their attention to a culture's literary productions. All other data is irrelevant to the critic's tasks. Then second option, language conditions the way we see the world and there is no reality beyond the prison house of language. Okay. Then third option is, there is no meaning outside of textual meaning, within brackets, contrary to the mimeticist's position. Fourth option is, literature encompasses all cultural artifacts and all the values, power relations and ways of seeing reflected in those artifacts. There is nothing outside of the text broadly conceived. See, when you are reading about new historicism, एक sentence याद रखना, Louis Montrose has said this, that new criticism is about the historicity of texts and the textuality of history. Okay, historicity of texts and the textuality of history. Now this is a very famous sentence and it really sums up what new historicism is about. Okay, so broadly आपको मैं समझा देता हूँ कि इस sentence का मतलब क्या है. Now when it says textuality of history, now what does that mean? See, normally हम लोग ये समझते हैं कि history is all about facts. History is objectivity or objective data, a record of the past. That is what we generally think about history whenever we study history. Okay. But history is not just that. Of course, history has objective data or some references to facts. But history also involves a lot of interpretation, and not just interpretation, also reinterpretation and then misinterpretation also. So all of that is included in history. So history is not totally objective or factual. It contains a high degree of, मतलब बहुत कुछ इसमें subjective है. So history जो है, it's almost like a literary text. Why? Because we interpret any literary text in many different ways. And literature, be it a poem or a novel, doesn't have any fixed meaning. Probably we can interpret literature in 100 ways or 1,000 different ways. So similarly, even history can be interpreted in many ways. That is why it says textuality of history. Okay. Now फर्स्ट पार्ट को अगर देखें, हिस्टोरिसिटी ऑफ टेक्स्ट्स, इसका क्या मतलब है? सी दे कैन बी मेनी डिफरेंट टेक्स्ट्स. ठीक है, ऑफ कोर्स लिटरेरी टेक्स्ट तो होते ही हैं. सी दे कैन बी मेनी डिफरेंट टेक्स्ट्स, वेदर इट बी रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट और लिटरेरी टेक्स्ट और हिस्टोरिकल टेक्स्ट और एनी काइंड ऑफ टेक्स्ट. नो, न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म ये कहता है कि एनी टेक्स्ट हैज सम रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ हिस्ट्री और कल्चर, and in other words, it is conditioned by many historical or cultural factors. Any text. So इसलिए ये कहता है कि historicity of texts. So any text does have some reflection of historical data. Okay, so this is broadly the meaning of historicity of texts. And in addition to that, और क्या कहता है new historicism, that when we analyze a literary text, we shouldn't limit our analysis or our understanding to the textual part. जैसे कि फॉर्मलिज्म या न्यू क्रिटिसिज्म कहता है. सो न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म सेज दैट डोंट लिमिट योरसेल्फ टू ओनली द टेक्स्ट. ओके, सो consider also the historical and the cultural conditions when the text was produced and what is the effect that it might have had on the audience. So consider also that. So broadly this is what new historicism says. Okay, now let's come to the question. Now जो फर्स्ट ऑप्शन है उसमें कहता है कि हिस्टोरिसिस्ट क्रिटिक्स शुड रिस्ट्रिक्ट देयर अटेंशन टू अ कल्चर्स लिटरेरी प्रोडक्शंस. ऑल अदर डेटा इज इररिलेवेंट टू द क्रिटिक्स टास्क. नाउ ये कहता है कि लिमिट योरसेल्फ टू लिटरेरी प्रोडक्शंस, बट ऐसा नहीं है, बिकॉज न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म सेज दैट ऑल्सो कंसिडर हिस्टोरिकल फैक्टर्स. दैट इज ऑल्सो इंक्लूडेड इन दिस, इन न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म. सो दिस इज रॉन्ग. देन कम्स Option 2, language conditions the way we see the world and there is no reality beyond the prison house of language. Now this is also wrong because जैसा कि मैंने आपको बताया कि along with the textual information, new historicism also gives a lot of emphasis on the historical and the cultural conditions when a text was produced. So option 2 is also wrong. Then comes the third option. There is no meaning outside of textual meaning, contrary to the mimetist's position. Now ये भी फॉर्मलिज्म या न्यू क्रिटिसिज्म से रिलेटेड लग रहा है, सो ये न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म से रिलेटेड तो नहीं है. सो इवन ऑप्शन 3 इज रॉन्ग. देन कम्स ऑप्शन 4. Literature encompasses all cultural artifacts and all the values, power relations and the ways of seeing reflected in those artifacts. There is nothing outside of the text, broadly speaking, broadly conceived. Now अगर आप इस टर्म को देखें, cultural artifacts, when it says literature encompasses all cultural artifacts. Now in cultural artifacts anything can be included. It includes literature, it includes historical texts, religious texts, anything can be included. So this is broadly what new historicism says. So number 4 is correct. So for this the correct answer is number 4. Next question is, who among the following is not a myth critic? Not a myth critic. Okay. A. Robert Graves, B. Raymond Williams, C. Francis Ferguson and D. Northrop Frye. Now ये तो बहुत ही स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन है, बिकॉज रॉबर्ट ग्रेव्स, फ्रांसिस फर्गुसन और नॉर्थरॉप फ्राई, ऑल ऑफ दीज आर रिलेटेड टू मिथ क्रिटिसिज्म एंड द ओनली वन विच इज नॉट रिलेटेड इज रेमंड विलियम्स, बिकॉज रेमंड विलियम्स इज रिलेटेड टू मोर रिलेटेड टू मार्क्सिस्ट लिटरेरी क्रिटिसिज्म. ओके, सो इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर है बी, रेमंड विलियम्स. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, according to Northrop Frye, there are 4 main narrative genres associated with the seasonal cycle of spring, summer, autumn and winter. They are comedy, dash, tragedy and irony within brackets satire. Which is the second one? Options हैं A. romance, B. epic, सी फिक्शन, डी नॉवल। सो ये बहुत स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड है, इसका आंसर है ए रोमांस। नाउ नॉर्थप फ्राई का एक इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है नेम्ड एनाटमी ऑफ क्रिटिसिज्म। ओके, एनाटमी ऑफ क्रिटिसिज्म। सो उसके अंदर ये सारे मेंशन्ड हैं कि व्हाट आर द 4 मेन टाइप्स ऑफ जॉनरास। दो वो प्लॉट कहता है इसको कि 4 मेन टाइप्स ऑफ प्लॉट्स और जॉनरास ऑलमोस्ट एक ही बात है। सो उस वर्क में ये मेंशन्ड है। एंड इन एडिशन ही सेज दैट नॉर्थप फ्राई ही सेज that all the other genres, मतलब बहुत सारे जो other genres होते हैं लिटरेचर में, they are derivatives or varieties of these 4. Okay, so the other ones are derived from this. So this is broadly what he says. और इसका जो work है Anatomy of Criticism, in this work he also develops the archetypal approach. Though originally अगर देखें तो it was started by Carl Jung, the psychoanalytic critic. You must have read about Carl Jung. So Carl Jung was the one who originally started this archetypal criticism, but it was further refined and developed more by Northrop Frye in his work Anatomy of Criticism. Okay. Next question is, what is practical criticism? First option is the close analysis of literary texts in such a way as to bring out their political meaning. Second option is a movement which wished to make literary criticism more relevant. Third, the close analysis of poems without taking account of any external information. Fourth, the study of ambiguity. Now पहले मैं आपको बता देता हूँ कि practical criticism होता क्या है in broad terms. Now practical criticism is basically closely analyzing the text. उस चीज़ को बोलते हैं practical criticism. This was started by I.A. Richards, and later on, using some of the ideas of I.A. Richards, new criticism developed. Okay, so practical criticism is somewhat similar to new criticism. Somewhat similar, not the same, but somewhat similar, because new criticism draws a lot from, or at least some important things from practical criticism. So, okay, so as I said, it is about closely analyzing a text in isolation, or not referring to the external or historical context or cultural context or social context. So उसे कहते हैं practical criticism. Now options में अगर देखें तो first option में है close analysis of literary text in such a way as to bring out their political meaning. Now this is wrong, because practical criticism is not interested in bringing out any political meaning. Na? Then second option is a movement which wished to make literary criticism more relevant. It might be, it looks okay, but not exactly correct. Then third option is the close analysis of poems without taking into account of any external information. Now this is the correct answer. Okay, and fourth option is the study of ambiguity. Not exactly. The third option is the most correct option, or more correct, or better, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Now next question is, Bertolt Brecht's concept of alienation was a rejection of the idea that realism was the only mode of art a critique of capitalist society should produce. Alienation is best described as option 1, making the audience feel that they do not belong. Second, distancing artistic conventions to prevent an emotional catharsis. Third, scripting unnatural behavior on stage. And fourth, a rejection of the capitalism or the market. Now first option है making the audience feel that they do not belong. Well, ऐसा कुछ sense बन नहीं रहा है इस चीज़ का, so probably it's wrong. Next option is distancing artistic conventions to prevent an emotional catharsis. This seems to be correct. Now let's check the third one. Scripting unnatural behavior on stage. थोड़ा बहुत हो सकता है. It might be little bit correct, but the second one seems more correct. Then fourth option is a rejection of capitalism or the market. Well, ये बहुत broad answer हो जाएगा. It's really broad, really remote kind of thing. This is not what exactly Bertolt Brecht's concept of alienation is. Okay. Now the concept of alienation, इसके बारे में थोड़ा समझा देता हूँ आपको. Basically, Brecht was opposed to the Aristotelian notion of catharsis. Now catharsis से आपको मतलब पता है कि purgation of emotions. So alienation का क्या rationale है? Rationale ये है कि it wants to prevent the audience from identifying with the actors. And what Brecht wanted to do was he wanted to prevent the audience from getting emotionally involved in the play. जैसा कि हमेशा होता है, हम लोग कोई मूवी देखते हैं या कोई टीवी सीरीज देखते हैं, so we tend to get emotionally involved. We tend to even identify ourselves with the characters. Now this is what alienation effect is against. This is what Brecht wanted to prevent. So इन चारों options में second option best option है, distancing artistic conventions to prevent an emotional catharsis. Now थर्ड ऑप्शन जो है स्क्रिप्टिंग अननेचुरल बिहेवियर, वेल इन वन वे जो भी एलिनेशन इफेक्ट में होता है, जो जो टेक्निक्स अप्लाई किए जाते हैं, इट इज़ काइंड ऑफ अननेचुरल, बट वो बहुत रिमोट आंसर हो जाएगा. इट मीन्स इतना ज़्यादा रेलिवेंट नहीं है. दैट्स वाई आई एम सेइंग थर्ड ऑप्शन इज रॉन्ग. ओके, बिकॉज समटाइम्स इट हैपन्स दैट आपको 4 ऑप्शंस में बहुत क्लोज के ऑप्शंस दे देंगे, ठीक है, और उनमें से 2-3 सही होंगे, बट यू हैव टू पिक द बेस्ट आंसर or the better answer, okay, the more correct or the most correct answer. That's why I'm saying number 2 is most correct or more correct. Okay, now next question is, identify the term among the following which does not relate to a movement in art or literature. Does not. First option is cubism, second empiricism, third expressionism, fourth surrealism. Now देख के ही समझ में आ रहा है, because cubism, expressionism and surrealism are somewhat related to literature and visual arts. कहीं ना कहीं कनेक्टेड है विजुअल आर्ट से और लिटरेचर से. इट इज ऑल्सो एट टाइम्स कनेक्टेड विद म्यूजिक और स्कल्पचर एक्सेट्रा. बट एम्पिरिसिज्म जो है सेकेंड ऑप्शन, दिस इज नॉट एट ऑल रिलेटेड टू आर्ट एंड लिटरेचर. एंड एम्पिरिसिज्म क्या कहता है कि वट एवर नॉलेज वी हैव और वट एवर नॉलेज वी कैन गेन इज ओनली थ्रू आवर सेंसेज, मतलब थ्रू आवर सेंसरी एक्सपीरियंसेस, एंड इट स्ट्रेसेस द इम्पॉर्टेंस ऑफ एम्पिरिकल एविडेंस. So empiricism will give emphasis to experiments or some kind of research, measurement, etc., etc. So that is what empiricism is. So empiricism is not at all related to literature or visual arts. Matlab, remotely it's not connected with that. One small reminder before I conclude this video. As I said in the beginning, after your exam is over, don't forget to send us the PDF of the question paper or web link or URL if you have it on our WhatsApp number. So with this, I wish you all the best for your exam, and I will see you in the next video.